So what does it take to turn these huge quarry slabs into these finished seats for the Bluestone Bench project? Well, stick around. We're going to Bosket Brothers Bluestone in New York State and doing a little shop tour to figure it out. Hey everyone, this is Todd Wolfe with Made by Wolfe. So when I started the Bluestone Bench project, I realized that I was going to need the 3 Bluestone seats for the Bluestone Bench. And I'm a wood guy. I don't do stone. But the first person I thought to reach out to in order to complete that order was Moe Bosket of Bosket Brothers Bluestone. Bosket Brothers Bluestone is located between Windsor and Deposit in New York State, just off of Interstate 86. You can actually see the stone dock from Interstate 86. Andrew, Moe, and Josh Bosket are the boys there. There's Andrew. There's Moe. And there's, hey, where's Josh? Oh, that's right. Josh didn't make it on camera because while Moe and Andrew spent the morning gabbing with me and showing me around the place, Josh was the only one who was actually working. Josh runs the Gantry Saw and it never stopped running the whole time I was there. The gantry does the bulk of the work at the stone dock, and if it's not running, the dock isn't making money. Andrew, Moe, and Josh have been handling bluestone at this location for the past 6 years. However, they've been involved with the stone business for a lot longer. I first met the Boskets through my brother-in-law John over 25 years ago, and not long after that I remember Andrew purchasing his first stone saw. At 14 inches, it seemed like a pretty big saw to me at the time. But as we will see, that's pretty small picking when it comes to stone saws. First, a word about bluestone. Bluestone is a naturally occurring sandstone that is quarried primarily in northeastern Pennsylvania and the Catskills region of New York. It takes its name from the bluish color of the stone. It is thought that bluestone comes from an ancient river delta that formed on the area some 350 million years ago. So what does it take to turn one of these enormous chunks of bluestone that come from the quarry into a finished bluestone slab? The first step is to take them to the Gantry Saw. I mentioned earlier that Andrew's first saw was 14 inches. Well now, the largest saw that the Bosket brothers have up and running is a 6-foot Gantry Saw. That's 72 inches and has the ability to cut stone up to 31 inches thick. The pieces of stone are laid on their sides and cut into what are called billets that are typically 25 inches wide. Each pass the saw makes cuts 1 inch of depth, so a quarry slab that is 25 inches thick takes 25 passes in order to cut all the way through, and the total cutting time is about 20 minutes. Josh is the brother that runs the Gantry Saw, and with each quarry slab that is to be cut, he must determine where the cuts will be made, which determines what becomes a billet and what becomes stone waste. The day is spent turning the quarry slabs into billets. Toward the end of the day, these billets are then turned onto their sides and placed side by side across the floor of the 6-foot Gantry Saw room, where they are then slabbed into various thickness pieces of bluestone during the night. Thankfully, the saw is programmable, which allows the slabbing process to be set up such that the saw continues cutting into the night after the workday ends for the Bosket brothers. The saw is then occasionally checked in the evening just to make sure that the cutting is still going well. The next morning, the slabs that were cut to thickness overnight are taken from the Gantry Saw room over to the thermaling station. When the slabs are finished being cut, you can see the saw marks where each 1 inch depth of cut was made. While these marks are minimal, they are still noticeable. These saw marks are removed by heat treating the surface with a large oxygen acetylene torch that can reach temperatures of up to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This process is called thermaling, and when the intense heat from the torch interacts with the moisture in the stone, it causes the surface of the stone to flake off, removing all of the saw marks and leaving a natural looking surface. After the surfaces are thermal, the slabs are then taken to the chop line. This cutting station uses 2 separate saws to cut the slabs of bluestone to their final sizes before sale. The first saw is the sizing saw and acts as a rip saw wood in woodworking, cutting the 25-inch wide slabs from the Gantry Saw down to 24 inches. Actually, it's cut to 23.5 inches. Bluestone is typically sized a ½ inch under its stated size, so a 2-foot by 3-foot piece of bluestone is actually 23.5 inches by 35.5 inches. This ½ inch accounts for the width of the saw blade cut. Once the stone is cut to width, it heads down the conveyor rollers to the second saw in the chop line, which is the crosscut saw. This saw cuts the slabs to their final dimensions. Once these pieces are at their final dimensions, they are placed on pallets where they are ready to be sold. Any miscuts or odd-sized pieces are placed on a separate pallet and sold as seconds. All of this moving of bluestone is heavy work. Bluestone weighs 14 pounds for every square foot at 1 inch thick. This means that one of the 2 foot by 3 foot pieces of stone that is 1 1/2 inches thick weighs around 125 pounds. Let there be no doubt about it, working with stone is hard work. Water is an absolutely necessary part of the cutting process. There is an enormous amount of heat that is generated as the blade cuts through the stone, and the water acts as a coolant preventing damage to the blade. However, this need for water presents a problem during the colder months this far north, as the freezing temperatures set in during our long winters. During the colder months, because the saws are in unheated buildings, it is necessary to thaw the saws out each day so that the water can flow before the saws start cutting. To accomplish this, enormous heaters are used, including the largest salamander heater I have ever seen. This heater is capable of 660,000 BTUs an hour. To give you an idea of how much heat that is, a typical furnace in the northern United States is around 80 to 100,000 BTUs an hour. However, even with this and other large heaters, the brothers are clear that there are days when they just say no.
So it's hard in the winter. Those days that are challenging, you just say no.
In woodworking, one of the ongoing tasks that must be done is the gathering and disposal of sawdust and shavings. In stone cutting, there is an equal but more difficult task, dealing with the stone dust. The other essential task that the water performs in the cutting process is the washing away of the enormous amounts of stone waste that is created when a 1/2 inch wide blade is run day and night. The water washes the stone dust into 3 large underground holding tanks where the stone waste settles out. The water is then recycled back to the saws where the process is repeated. These tanks are then pumped daily through an enormous filter press that uses 100 pounds of air pressure and thousands of pounds of hydraulic pressure to filter out the stone dust so the water is able to be recirculated to the saws. This stone sludge, which at this point resembles clay, is then used as landfill, often helping to reclaim the very quarries that the bluestone was harvested from. Currently, the 6-foot gantry saw is the largest saw that the Bosket brothers have. However, this spring, they will have a second and larger gantry saw in operation. This one will have a whopping 11.5-foot diameter blade on it. That, my friends, is enormous. It will require a 75 horsepower motor to turn the blade and will be able to cut stone 5 foot deep and 15 foot long. Andrew, Moe, and Josh have been continually upgrading their capabilities since starting Bosket Brothers Bluestone 6 years ago. If you are in the market for bluestone for a building project or just for around your house, don't hesitate to contact them. Stop by if you are near Deposit, New York, or call them up. They can ship anywhere train and trucks go in North America.